The more tools I find, the more fascinated I am with how many really creative designs were on the market for years before Leatherman. Today is a special episode because I will be talking about some tools you have probably never seen or heard of. Now, if you've been watching this channel, you may have seen a couple of these. This is the Barnett multi-tool. This is the Seaboard France Steel Company multi-tool. Both of these are prior to the Leatherman PST. So before Tim Leatherman even had designed or begun to design this Leatherman PST, the original Leatherman tool, both of these and many, many more were in existence, but most of these had essentially, they had pliers, but there were only tools in one handle. And I pretty much credited Tim Leatherman with the idea of two handles with tools in it and a set of pliers at a very light weight. And for years now, I have considered the PST essentially a pioneer among multi-tools for that very reason. And you can read how Leatherman even talks about essentially the first modern multi-tool, or they'll talk about the first multi-tool. Now imagine my surprise when I ran across this multi-tool. I was browsing the multi-tool world, the Facebook group. Definitely check that out. And someone had this tool on their page and they talked about this being the father of the Leatherman PST. And I thought, I'm going to check on eBay, see if I can find one. And I found one for, I don't know, $25, $30, really good steel. This was made in Germany. And from all the information I can find, this was made maybe 10 to 20 years before Tim Leatherman came out with the PST. Now let's take a look at this right here. Now this multi-tool is very important from a multi-tool design perspective because in a lot of respects, this is even the first Leatherman wave. Now, hold on, we'll get to that eventually. But what we notice with this design is that here we have these handles. We've got tool in each of the handles. Then we have this plier head. Yes, it looks very different to what we see today. This was known as the pocket fisherman's tool. It actually came with some literature, which usually these don't, but this is known as a novelty pocket fisherman's tool, happy angler. Pretty cool right here. Then inside it talks about its functions. Now it says 9 tools combined in one tool: long nose plier, fish hook degouger, shot splitter, cutting edge, all around bottle opener, fish scaler, hook remover, line and leader cutter, jackknife blade. Very, very cool right here. Again, talking about universal angler equipment. Then it goes into a little bit more depth. I guess some of these came with a leather sheath. Mine did not. It just came in this cardboard box. And from what I can find online, people are guessing that this was around the 1950s. So $17.25, I guess. Pretty expensive for back then, if I'm reading that right. A very interesting and unique tool, but let's get back to the tool itself. Now, when we look at this plier head, again, very, very shiny. We'll look at the tools a little bit later. But here we have, again, yes, it's a fishing multi-tool. We've got a very long set of pliers. These have very thin, again, it's a very thin set of pliers, but they do have almost like teeth right there. You can see on both sides. This was, again, made in Germany. Got the several functions even in the plier head. What I find really fascinating about this tool is you see a lot of design elements in use today and considered fairly modern. Now we have outside opening tools, and also you have this scale, or I'm not sure how, this layer, I guess you would say, a layer above the layer where the plier sits in. So both of these are extra layers where there's an outside tool, very similar to the Leatherman Wave. That is amazing. If this is truly made in the 1950s, again in Germany, We have a lot of the same architecture Leatherman will use later on. The world will call it revolutionary, which, I mean, it is. But to think that this was made years and years before all of these tools, that is pretty amazing. That's why it's always good to look back in history, look at some of these older tools. There are some very key design features that modern designers could take from these tools and still use today. And I hope Leatherman designers are doing that because there's a lot of wealth of information. Very, very cool. I want to go ahead, take this to the scales, weigh it, and look into a little bit more. On the scales, this comes in at 6 ounces. I'll go ahead, put the Leatherman PST on there. Leatherman PST comes in at 5.3 ounces. So again, this one has the huge plier head. The genius of Tim Leatherman was really fitting all these tools in the first PST at a very minimal weight. I guess, I don't know. I don't want to downplay. Yes, it was a brilliant design. But again, as we have seen, there were design cues already around. But I think the real trick was to put all these tools in a lightweight frame. And that is really the genius of the PST and the bond to this day, really. Also, as you can see, this tool comes in just around 4 inches exactly, or 10 centimeters. Pretty interesting that one of the first double folding multi-tools I have seen, at least on the market, came in at that 4-inch frame size, and to this day, that is the market standard. Pretty unique. Now, some of the information that I'm going to share with you is actually from a blade forum, and I think one of the members from the multitool.org shared this. Julie Soes, I'm probably butchering that name as well. But anyway, they shared about this tool. That's about the only place I can find information about it. And again, they talked about it being made from the Abe Bowerman company, the ABC company of Solingen, Germany, that essentially the German companies were so devastated by World War II that they were marketing these almost like trinkets to the more prosperous American countries. That's why we see some of these innovative designs come over here. They weren't really designed for the German market. And then goes on to say that this right here, it is only 3/8 inch thick, and that also it was produced before the widespread stainless steel was available, and the entire device is nickel plated for corrosion resistance. I didn't really pick up on that, but that's a good observation. This is such a shiny reflective tool, but you can see the design in here. It's not just a flat steel or metal, but this right here actually has a pretty neat designed pattern in here that makes it look a lot more expensive, and I can see why it was a little pricier for its time. Really neat tool.